because things are changing dramatically fast nowadays. So it's not what you do yesterday you can do today and still do it tomorrow with comfort. No, it changes dramatically.
Hi there and welcome to the Bertie podcast. Very excited to be starting these sessions with you, Bertie. So we're talking about millennials and let's give them 3 life hacks. That's what we're calling it on the internet. How can we help them in their life?
Considering that all that the millennials are doing is being on the computer, I suppose then the hacks is the right word to do, because they too are struggling to understand themselves. What's still us that is older than them, and that's a part of a previous generation. I think one of the biggest issues we all have and with the millennials is that they absolutely think different to all of us. And I won't use the word loosely as dramatically different. They are just different, and therefore they approach life different, and they also approach their work, and their work ethic is different. And it's got nothing to do with quality, and it's got nothing to do with quantity. It's just that the millennials think differently about so many different things. If one take an example, and one talk about, let's call it insurance and investment, looking after your personal future. That is one of the things that is not really important to them. They live as if nothing will happen to them, and they experience life accordingly. They live fast, they live long hours, that is, and they live comfortably. If you try to put them in a box, you will fail. The approach to the millennials are totally different. So when you look at investments and for that matter, insurance, I mean, Bitcoins is something that they will look at. They will buy gold. It's just a different approach. Secondly, in the workplace, for you as a manager or then as a leader, it is challenging to manage your resources, your millennials. They are crucially important for the company because things are changing dramatically fast nowadays. So it's not what you do yesterday you can do today and still do it tomorrow with comfort. No, it changes dramatically, and therefore we need the millennials. We need those kind of maverick thinking, which the older generation doesn't necessarily always understand. But when we do, and we get to that point, we do understand that we must allow the mavericks to be themselves and give them scope in the organization, because they will take you into the new millennium, where you have got very little experience of. Lastly, I would like to say, if I need to address 3 points, I'd say change to them does not come easy, because they create their own change and then they come comfortable because they can walk with it step by step. But if change are enforced onto them, their first action would be to retaliate. And that is why for parents, and therefore also in the work environment, it's difficult to deal with the millennials in that sense that they would retaliate. They will have an opinion and they will raise their opinion, whether you like it or not. They do have an opinion, and often that opinion for you at that point in time will be difficult to understand. But give it time, you will understand that those mavericks just think differently, and therefore in an organization, understand you need them because they will take you into the future.
Bertie, I think we can probably call this 3 hacks to understanding millennials. We've been working through material and we've been talking about beyond the ship being about thinking differently and approaching things differently. And I think for them, coming into workspaces and the different generations converging together, they bring a different dynamic to the whole thing. So what is the value of that thinking differently and us embracing that?
We talk about beyond the ship because a beyond the ship is a thinking and it's feeling. Now, if you just think about these millennials, the way they approach life and also approach future. I spoke to a gentleman that was very much involved in new technology in the veterinary environment, the medication for animals. And he was talking about his experience with the millennials in university environment where a lot of research are done. And their approach, for example, is, if I can do it in a game on the computer, why can't I do it in real life? For me, personally, part of the older generation, to understand those concepts is very difficult. But for them, it's just a matter of why can't it be done? So if I can send a little robot on the computer during my game down the veins of something, or just down the tube, why can't I do it in life? And so they are working on technologies to do that, and that is where the rapid change in development is taking place in the world, because they think about things and they immediately answer themselves and say, why can't it be done? And they just go for it. They are not there to say what's going to go wrong, and very little can go wrong. If you have to manufacture something, the impact of a mistake can be big. If you make a design on the computer and it doesn't work, it is small, but it's part of the learning experience. And they are so attuned. It comes easy to them.
Bertie, I've heard a concept of when we're talking about the way that everybody's matured and how we approach life these days, that the new 21 is 40 years old. What do you think of that statement?
We hear that all the time, that longevity is going to be one of the biggest factors to consider in the future. We are just simply going to live longer. And the challenge, therefore, is how we're going to manage living longer. So that is a challenge. Definitely, the age of maturity is moving on, and there is probably very little control over that, because kids of 10 years old and kids of 30 years old, how do you differentiate between them when they come to development and growth and just creation? And it's not creativity here, we talk about creation.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. I think it's 12 of the Bertie Roux podcast. Thank you for having me and helping you host this. I'm very excited about this. If you want to connect with Bertie, you can do so by following him on SoundCloud, connecting with him on LinkedIn, like his Facebook page, and subscribe to his YouTube channel. We'll see you in the next one.